Howdy y'all, this is AR Cafley and welcome back to my channel. It's been a little while since I've put any kind of solo gaming up, mostly because I have a actual group that I play with roughly once a week now, so don't really have that great desire. But as I was going through looking at some of my old games that I had from the 80s, from high school days, I came across a stash of games that I had that was one of my favorites. And I thought I could definitely use a little solo campaign with that. And that game that I'm talking about is Traveller 2300. Now, if you know anything about Traveller 2300, this was the first box. And because of some confusion with Traveller and everything else, they actually changed it to just 2300 AD. Now, I had both. This one I just scored, and it's like in mint condition. So I just have it out here to show off a little bit. To show my prize off. Everything there is real nice. Now, I will admit I do like the artwork on the old one better, even if we do have a little Darth helmet action going on there. I kind of like the more realistic kind of look compared to the cartoony is probably the wrong word, but less simulation-y, maybe? I don't know. But I had one of those boxes a long time ago, and I think it smushed, and then since I had both, I just put everything into my Traveller 2300 box. But I'm actually going to be playing the 2300 AD, and while I'm here showing off, also got my, of course, gotta have Star Cruiser, which is sort of like I used to play Harpoon. I think I've got Harpoon in my shed still. Kind of like Space Harpoon, kind of. And all of my big, yummy collection of books. Most of these I've had since the 80s. A few I've picked up recently, especially some of the third-party ones. But I thought that would be an awesome campaign to run through. Just to do some solo play. Now it is a little more. I wouldn't even say necessarily it's rules heavy, but I don't think it necessarily lends itself particularly to solo play. But you can solo play anything. So, just for those who don't know the background, 2300 takes place starting campaign in 2300, which is 300 years after one of my other high school favorites, Twilight 2000. All right, now that I'm done flexing on my grognard, my old grognard books, the Traveller 2300, I've always liked the aesthetic, the kind of near future, realistic. It's kind of a dangerous word to use when you're doing anything sci-fi, but basically it only has, it's very low on the hand waving. You have the stutter warp, which is its FTL, which most sci-fi has some kind of FTL in it, some kind of hand wavium, but there's no anti-gravity. The ships have spin capsules for simulated gravity. And those are all things I really like in a setting. I'm kind of a hard sci-fi guy, and this fits that bill. So we're going to be doing some solo. And I think for our semi-session 0, I'll also maybe go through just some of the stuff that, like character creation and things like that, just to give a view to people who maybe are curious. I know Mongoose has 2300 out for the new Traveller, using the Traveler rules, which I like Traveler too. But for me, along with some other games, if I have them all already, I don't really feel the need to, rebuy them just so I can have the latest. But anyway, so our session 0 is going to be I decide I'm going to make 4 characters, a little team, and I'm going to try to focus on the relationships as well as just uh, going through missions and the more turn-based tactical side of things. In order to help me do that for my uh, Oracle, as we solo folks call our little tables and ask the questions, I'm going to use the Game Master's Apprentice card deck. And I don't know how well you can see that, if I can zoom it in there. But each card has a number of fields on it. So if there's like, what do you see, what do you hear? It's got the action, verb, subject, names, the likely odds kind of things that you will find in a lot of solo games, right? To help you as a player, solo player, answer your questions. So I'm going to try to just stick to using this just because I have a bunch of them. I have a bunch of the genre ones, and I've never really dug too much into them. I've used them, but I want to try to use this because I do have other solo rules that I use, solo accoutrement. That's probably the wrong word. It's not the word I'm trying to think of anyway, but other solo tools that I have that I've used on my other solo games on the channel. So I'm going to dig in, try to use these. So 2300, like I said, it is a more grounded, hardish sci-fi. Man has traveled to the stars using the stutter warp, and it's 300 years after the Twilight 2000. Now, of course, a lot of things have changed since the 80s, so for the most part, I always think about it as, something big happened a long time ago, and that way I don't have to really worry too much about trying to square circles or anything like that. Just something happened a long time ago that was bad and changed the world in a lot of ways, and now it's 300 years later, and we now have Traveler 2300. All right, so we have this handy play aid book, and we use it to make the characters. It has a bunch of the GM stuff on it, and it's pretty handy. Anyone familiar with other Traveler, you'll recognize all the geodesic triangle stuff. One of the things I do like about Traveler is that it bills itself as, what's on the box, realistic, playable realism. And I think it does a pretty good job with that. I know some people aren't as fond of the system, but I like the system. I like the different damage that it uses. I think it has a lot of things that I like, as I guess one who leans on the simulationist side of role playing. But we will start off by making a character, and I probably won't film all 4 characters because that would get kind of boring. But we'll start off with we'll walk through making one, and then I won't make you watch the rest of them. All right, now I have this third party character sheet. We will go through that. Something else I might do as maybe a session, I don't know, 1.5 or something, is all of these come with this in the game book comes with a Terror's Lair, which is actually kind of a solo game in and of itself. And for as much as I've done and played with this, although not a lot recently, to be honest, but Um, I've never actually gone through that. It's kind of like a little choose your own adventure, and there's your, you have your starting character, a U.S. Marshal, I think, chasing down a drug cartel or whatever. And since this is going to be random or solo, I'm going to use a lot. I'm going to make the characters as random as possible. That way, I don't have to I don't have to try to mentally think about how to make them to differentiate them. We'll just we'll just start rolling things. All right. So I'm going to go down this little checklist here. And just for those of you who maybe are interested in how the characters make, if you're familiar with travel, it's a pretty simple system. The skill system is, except it's D10 plus dice modifiers instead of 2d6 plus dice modifiers. So let us start. I'm going to select a home world. And what it wants us to do is decide whether it's core or a frontier world. I'm going to roll in this little. I don't want to keep moving that back and forth. All right, a 7. That means it's a frontier world. So homeworld type is frontier. And that is going to help determine, well, like where they're from. It's going to help determine what starting skills they have. All right, find the homeworld gravity. This is another D10 roll. 6. Okay, so it's a normal gravity. And thanks to Mad Irish, this is his character sheet. It has some more stuff on it. All right, now select the body type. This game talks about the ectomorph, endomorph, normal, and mesomorph, which are basically, you have stocky or very tall and thin, and or normal or very husky and muscular, and they modify your stats. So we're going for normal. So we're going to roll another D10 here. 7. And that's going to give him a normal body type. And that means that he's not going to have any inherent modifiers. All right, so now we're going to generate our characteristics, which is 4d6 minus 4, and for most of them, and then we'll modify them. All right, so 7 for size. Now being normal, that's going to give strength at size. These columns here, these are for different, like for high G, low G, and 0G, your stats get changed. All right, dexterity. Okay. Rolling as good as normal. And endurance. Okay. Well, at least that's somewhat normal. All right. Determination. Intelligence. All right, so he's smart, so that's good. Eloquence. All right. Not very eloquent. And education. It's 10 now. All right. Not great rolls, but hey, not everyone's a superhero, right? Now, what you can do is you can re-roll one physical and one mental. I think I'm going to go ahead and re-roll size. Okay, well, that's better. That'll change his size and his strength. So that's 14 and 14. And let's see. determination really is very important in this game. It's a lot of it affects a lot of things. So I'm going to go ahead and re-roll determination. Okay, 13. So that's good. So in the end, not too shabby. Not very eloquent. He's a little slow on his feet and with his mouth. So, um, all right. Now our education. Then this is one of the reasons why determination comes into play. Education is modified by intelligence and determination. So his intelligence of 15, that grants him a +4 to his education, and his determination of 13 adds +2, so he gets +6. So he gets a 16 education. That's going to affect his points, probably affect the type of career he has. Of course, he could be in any kind of career, but it might guide decisions. Uh, just to just to show you, those are the tables that we're kind of pulling stuff off of. Okay, we did the re-rolling. Now determine strength, dexterity, gravities, or strength and dexterity in alternate gravities. All right, so the gravity of his home world is normal, right? Yeah, it is normal. So I'm going to come over to here, and in zero gravity, it's +2 strength. Whoops. 16, and then -2 for dexterity. And basically, it's you know, you're weaker but quicker based on your starting gravity in other gravities. All right, background skills. Background skills equal education divided by 2. I'm going to use my little scratch pad over here so I don't have to mark my sheet up too much. So he's got 8 background skills, which is actually pretty good, really. That's really good, actually. Now, the way the background skills are based on frontier skills, you have a list, and then core skills, you have a list. And to buy the skills, it costs 1/2 of the value rounded up. So if you're going to buy 0, costs 1 point, 1 costs 1 point. All right. And then if you want to go from 1 to 2, 2 divided in half is another point. So, but once you get to 3, to raise it from 2 to 3, it costs an additional 2 points because 3 divided by 2 is 1.5 rounded up. All right, now I'm not going to make you sit and listen to me mutter while I decide what skills he's got, but I'm picturing him as obviously doing something more educational, more maybe academic, but we'll see. Be right back. All right, so I decided to give him combat rifleman, spend 2 points on that, so it gives me a skill level of 1, which is what acts as a dice modifier to skill tests. Melee 1, ground vehicle 1, and first aid and electronics at 0. So instead of having maybe an in-depth, like collegiate type education, he kind of went all over the place and had different things. So maybe his education was more, you know, trade school, or by his education was from doing a bunch of different things around whatever colony, whatever frontier world he was on. All right, now career skills. So we've selected those, and now we're going to go career skills. Or, well, we have to select our careers. Now, one thing that they don't have in 2300 is they don't have any kind of entertainment careers, which I'm not necessarily interested in doing that. But I was just thinking through. There's like no acting or artist or anything like that. But so the type of careers they're listed out, and each career gives you a list of starting skills, and then you pick those where you want to apply. Well, you get those, you put those skill points towards those skills, and then the next step is you roll 1d10, and that represents what 2300 calls a turning point. So you have your initial training, and then you roll 1d10, and that represents the number of years that you're in that field before you have a turning point. Now, the turning point isn't necessarily good, bad, or otherwise. It just means that there's a change in your life situation. So maybe you changed careers, or maybe you got booted out. Maybe you did get in trouble for something. Maybe you got tired of working for the man, whatever. Uh, Game wise, it does, you want to kind of roll high because you get more skill points. You get 1 point per year of that turning point. Um, Another thing I don't think 2300 has, unlike other Traveler, is that there's no aging. So it doesn't seem like there's unless I missed it, but I might add it just because, but it doesn't seem like there's necessarily a penalty for aging. Of course, they do have age extension, so maybe they figure by the time even if you're aging into your 40s or 50s, with in 2300, you're not going to suffer like in the typical Traveler setting. So let's see. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to decide on the career. Maybe I'll use one of my random cards to help decide what to pick and assign skills, and then I'll be back and we'll do the turning point. All right, so one of the skills or one of the careers that you can pick are Frontier World and Core World careers. Now, you don't necessarily have to be from those. I think for the Core World, you may have to at least grown up on one with a big city or something. But I decided that I think he would be a good scout. So these are the initial survey team done by scouts. And so he gets Combat Rifleman 1 point, and it's really better think of it that way. 1 point to Combat Rifleman, 1 point to Sidearm, 1 to Melee, 1 to Mechanical, 1 to Electronic, 1 to Pea Suit. All right, so I had some of those, so that bumped up Electronics to 1, and Combat Rifleman and Melee bound up to 2 because they were already at 1, so you get 1 more point that brings up to 2. So now the next step is we're going to do a turning point. We're going to roll to see how many years he was in. All right, 4 years. So 4 years. Now there is a bonus to your skill points if you get. I think your intelligence and determination have to be over 30, though. Let's see. Yeah, if your intelligence and determination are over 30, you get some bonus points. But he has 4, so he only had 4 years. So I'm going to note here on the sheet, turning point 1 is 4 years. Now, one of the things that he has when you have a career, it lists those and it lists your primary skills. Those skills cost like you do when you're buying. There's the 1/2 to get to the next 1/2 of the skill you're going to, rounded up, and the related skills are double that. Now he has all space crew skills for his primary skills. Chemistry, biology, geology, astronomy, physics, and survival. So I think he's going to spend his first turning point learning basically how to fly the ship. All right, so we're just going to go space crew skills. So I think obviously we need to start with pilot. I think pilot's a good one. And we'll start him at 1 so he's not just a complete newbie. And I think since he is a scout, he's not a fighter pilot, he's a scout. So I think sensors is another one. We'll spend both of those. We'll, we'll spend those 4 points to bring pilot to 0 to 1, and then sensors from 0 to 1. Right now, when you spend the points, you have to resolve a turning point test. Oh, this row right here are attribute modifiers. They're basically the attribute divided by 4, dropping any kind of remainders. So, uh, all right. So his determination dice modifier is 3. Whenever you're making the turning points, the first 2 are easy, and so or simple is what it calls it. And so simple, that gives it a difficulty of 2 or higher. So those are going to pass, no problem. Now, as the turning points increase after those first 2, each one starts going up in difficulty. So it goes to simple, and then after the second one, it goes to routine, and then difficult, and then formidable. And they get no one can get past I think the 5th one. Anyway, even if you roll, I think even if you have the right stats, 5 I think is the highest you can get. All right, so I'm gonna roll, but he would have been able to pass it anyway. So I think he's going to spend another tour. Okay, so 3. So our guy's probably going to be a younger fella by the time it's all said and done. So turning point 2 is 3 years. And what kind of points do we want for that? I think maybe we'll increase some more of those space skills. Let's see. So we got 3 points. We'll spend 1 point to get pilot up to 2. And then I think we'll go ahead and do another point to get sensors up to 2. And I think everyone can get the general skills. Melee sidearm. Yeah, all general skills. So I think we'll use that last point to bring mechanical up. So he can fly the ship, and he has a better chance of fixing any troubles. All right, so we'll try to pass his second turning point. Again, no problem there. So he makes it to turning point 3. He likes the scouts, so he's going to stay there, I think. How many years? 4. All right, so another 4 years for that turning point. We'll say this time maybe he's going to do some other kind of work, probably still on the ship, but let's see. Does he want to do? I think maybe he wants to do a little more, maybe some academic skills, some biology, geology, astronomy type stuff. Yeah, all right, so we're going to go ahead and bump up P suit, which is pressure suit, to bump that up to 2. And let's see, he's a survey guy. So let's say he likes looking, he learns about some geology going on while he's in orbit. He can use it to maybe find good places to land or find where, the resources might be. And let's see, all space crew skills. Let's spend another point in the space crew skill. Let's see. I think we'll keep him up front. So he's learned. Um, Actually, you know what? I think we'll change it to remote. We'll select remote pilot since he's a sensors guy. He has spent some time learning to remote pilot. All right, now so to resolve turning point 3, whereas before the simple tasks are only 2 or above, so they're really, you almost don't even really need to roll. But this is now routine, so he needs to get a 6 or higher with his determination bonus of 3. So pretty good chance he'll make it, but you never know. All right, a 4. All right, so he barely made that one. And so he's at turning point 4. How long was he in there? Oh, only 1 year. All right. So I think maybe this time we'll look at something that's maybe something different. If it was only 1 year, maybe something happened, and maybe he decided that he was going to find interest in something else. So no space crew skills this time around. Maybe he had some kind of encounter. Pirates, maybe Kafer, maybe something like that. So I think we'll use that 1 point to increase his sidearm. So that'll give him some pause. All right. Now here uh, I can try to go for the next turning point, or I can just stop. The thing with making a turning point roll is that you are really kind of supposed to roll on the mishap table. It's not quite where your character dies, although I guess you could roll it in there like that. Um, but so we've got, okay, so I'm not even sure he can go another one. So let's see. So simple, 6 or higher. Okay, he needs to get a 10 or higher this time to go to another turning point. And I think because that was such a short turning point, I think if he makes it, he's going to select another career. I don't know what yet, but to me, it speaks to if there's a very short turning point that something happened. So 10 or better with a determination DM of 3. Okay, so almost. So this is the point now that he failed that. It's that's the end of his turning point generation. Um, However, let's see. We'll roll 2 die 6. We have this failure type on there. He came pretty close, so I'm just gonna roll 2d6 and just use it for some narrative sauce. An 8. Okay, so that would normally allow a check determination, but because it's at the end of his turning point, there's no determination. So something happened. He somehow became um, disenfranchised. He lost his love for the scouts, and um, let's see what it was. Let's see what caused it. So I'm going to use little cards here, and I'm going to use prompt words just to see if what it gives us here. So explore the brazen work. Explore the brazen work. All right, so yeah, I think that sounds right. So they, for whatever reason, whoever he was working for, he feels they've really lost the side of the big picture. They've really changed. Maybe they got bought out by some big corporation and they came down with a bunch of corporate change. That sounds good. His whatever company or organization he was working for, there's a big organizational change. Either got bought out or if it was a government, we'll figure that out later. Um, Maybe there was cuts or a big political realignment, something like that. He lost his love for the scouting service he was in and decided he was going to get out and look for something new. All right, so now we're going to go through and we're going to, whoops, knock my camera around, step through our next portions just to go through the character creation. All right, resolve, success, failure. Okay, character finalization, mass. All right, the mass in kilograms with a base of 50 plus 3 times size. And yes, I could, but I'm a wimp. I don't like to base it. So 3 times size, 14 times 3 plus 50. All right, so his mass is over here. All right, 92 kilograms. Now he's normal, so there's no modification there. Consciousness level equals mass divided by 20. So that's going to be rounded down. So 92. So that's going to round that down. That's going to give him a consciousness level of 4 and a life level of 9, which is it divided by 9. Okay, encumbrance is twice the sum of size plus strength. All right, so that's going to be 42. I think that's on here somewhere. Well, I'll just jot it down here. All right, so that's the weight that he can carry before he's considered encumbered. All right, throw range is times 8, strength times 8 for a 1 kilogram item. So 8 times 14, 112 meters. That's that's a pretty good throw. Okay, there we go. 112 meters. All right, throw range, coolness under fire. Now this is kind of one of those things that it's depending on the type of campaign you're in is pretty important because it determines coolness under fire determines not only your initiative but whether or not how you react to high pressure situations. Now his careers, if you have military or law enforcement type careers, field agent type thing, then you get a bonus based on the number of turning points. He did not get those, so we're going to see 4. Okay, so coolness under fire 4. That's not too bad, especially for a civilian. All right, homeworld, nationality, and language is known. All right, I think I'll skip that and we'll do the eyesight and hearing because those are easy rolls to do. All right, his eyesight is 8, which is excellent. I don't know if it actually says. It gives rates of like poor, average, excellent, and exceptional. Um, I I've kind of always used them as like a dice modifier. It may say it somewhere in the rules, but so excellent if I'm looking for something that's just like an eyesight perception roll. And hearing 9, excellent as well. And so that'll give him +2 for that. All right, and while we're on the same little table, we'll go for looks. 8. Attractive. All right, it's gonna be male, attractive. Okay, and his age is going to be 18 plus all of his terms. It's an additional +1 if you change careers, but he did not do that. So it's going to be 18 plus 12. All right, so that's a respectable 30. And I use a couple of random name and nationality generators to do stuff. One will give a name and a birthplace and all that stuff. And that's kind of what I use if I don't have a particular idea. So I'm going to go use those pages real quick. Let's see. Yeah. Actually, I realized the best way to help determine is this has a handy colonies of Earth. Now we know he's from a frontier world with normal gravity. I was counting, and there's almost exactly there's like 50 of these colonies that are within the normal gravity range, which it considers anything above zero point 0.8 gravity and below 1.4. So I'm just going to roll and divide by 2. All right, so we got 56. Divide that by 2, and that gives us 56 divided by 2. All right, so 28. So I'm going to count down this list here real quick. All right, so that puts him on Vogelheim, which is a German colony established in 2231. So a decently sized or a decently aged colony, and that might become interesting because I think Vogelheim is actually out towards where the Kafer invasion starts, so that might give them some interesting hooks, maybe family wise. If the Kafer fleet, if I'm remembering that correctly. And I'll give a shout out here to Fantasy Name Generator, generators.com. I use them a lot, and I've used them in my novels and in a lot of my games here. All right, all right. Oh, I realize you can't see them, but there's a list, and I think the name I like. I think I like Stefan Kellerman. All right. All right, now we've done that. Now we're going to pick his languages. So he obviously, native language is going to be German. And there are, I don't know if Scouts won, but there are other languages, like if you have like a civilian admin type job, then you learn French because the French are a big guys in this one. All right, here it is. So if a character has been in government or civilian career, they also know French. If he's been mercantile, space, military, exploratory, or ship crew, he'll also know English. Okay, so he knows English as well. I guess kind of one of those like air traffic control kind of thing maybe today. All right. So I know it's getting a little long here. We're gonna wrap it up. Money has 1,000 uh, uh, livres. The French is kind of the unit is the base monetary for everything that they use. Um, so he was in for a total of 12. So he's got, let's mark it down here. I'm not going to go and buy equipment because the missions and stuff they're going to do, if you're working for an organization, usually they'll provide them. And I don't want to go digging through that right now. However, what I will do is I'm going to make some uh, character traits. I actually also found where he worked for. I came across these sidebars have suggestions for the different types of careers. Now, being as he's a German, and we'll say his exploratory organization that he was with, the Astronomischen Recheninstitut, originally an office of the University of Heidelberg. The Astronomischen Recheninstitut has gone on to become perhaps the single biggest organization devoted to stellar exploration. So maybe what he lost his love for was some, like I said, some big organizational change. Maybe it was even local. Maybe it was just his local area manager or whatever that he was having some issues with. All right, so I'm going to pick two personality traits. The Game Master's Apprentice, it has these things here. There are symbols on the card that match there. I filled that out just to use as a personality type. And the game itself also has motivations for NPCs, and I'm going to draw some of those for it. All right, so his personality wise, okay, it's going to be a wand, which is thoughtful or introspective. Say he's introspective. He's not very eloquent, so maybe that's why he went into the scouts, so he could go be alone in space, or at least with a small crew in space. So he's introspective, and he's also heart. That gives him kind, sympathetic. I'll say sympathetic. So he's introspective and sympathetic. So probably a quiet guy, goes well with having the low eloquence. Now in the director's guide, there is NPCs, and it uses a draw of cards just to come up with some motivation for the NPCs. Right, yeah. Let's see. Oh, I haven't used these guys in a long time. I think I have them all. These are Star Trek-y ones. I should maybe not use Star Trek-y ones, but why not? I've had these for a long time too. I have one new in box. All right, we'll do these last two. We'll draw two motivations for our friend Stefan. All right, 7 of clubs. So I'll say that's all right. So that's middle, 5, 6, or 7. Middle. He's aggressive and accepts violence as a means of solving problems. Not necessarily contradictory. I'll say that he's quiet and sympathetic until it's time to kick booty. All right, his other trait, 8 of diamonds. So that's going to be high. He's easy to bribe and might betray his friends if the price is right. All right, so maybe that's why he got out. Maybe he got in trouble. So maybe our sympathetic person, maybe he's not such a nice guy. or maybe he was tired of getting shafted by his boss and was looking to get stuff on the other side. I don't know. We'll have to work that around, but we'll note that and develop those traits as the campaign goes on. So, Stefan Kellerman is now complete, and we will go ahead and I will make the others to complete and put in there. And then in the next video, we'll go over the crew and kind of what they're what they're about, who they're working for. I know Rebco SAR is always a good one because they're kind of troubleshooters and go all over the place and do all sorts of things. So they're a good starting company, but to work for. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that, and I hope I didn't ramble too much, but I had fun doing that, and we'll talk to you next time. Happy gaming.